Good afternoon, and welcome to the Smart Women Savvy Money 2010 webinar series. 30 minutes on the clock, 20 minutes to teach, and 10 to talk. Smart Women Savvy Money is a platform offered through Urban Wealth Management designed to provide women with the tools and resources they need to create the lifestyle they desire and deserve. Before we get started, though, I'd like to cover a few housekeeping items. My name is Renee Norris, CEO and founder of Urban Wealth Management and Smart Women Savvy Money. Our calls are scheduled for the second Thursday of each month from 1 to 1:30 Pacific Time. All of our calls are recorded, and replay links are sent out shortly after each call. So for future reference, if you can't make one of our upcoming sessions, as long as you register, we'll send you the replay link. All lines are muted, so if you have any questions or comments, please use the chat box. We'll try as best as possible to stay on time. So for those who want to continue the conversation, feel free to reach out to us for additional information and ideas. For information and to register for future events or webinars, please visit our website at urbanwm.com. Our June 9th seminar will be a discussion of developing trends in real estate, a great topic given that we're right at the start of the buying and selling season. And in July, Kimberly Davidson, an attorney who specializes in collaborative divorces, will join us for Oh No, He Said, She Said, the D word, a look at an alternative method to divorce, dissolution through mediation and collaboration. And hey, while you're on the site, check out our blogs. We post every single week, and one of our more popular ones is our 5 things. This week we have a conversation about sustainable and responsible investing. How timely. You can also check out our LinkedIn and Facebook pages as well as our Twitter feeds. And now for today's topic, why gender diversity should matter to investors. Our speaker, Martha Schuman, is a returning guest. Martha joined us last September for the talk entitled Putting Your Money Where Your Heart Is, a discussion of how to align personal values with your investing objectives. Today, she's back to discuss a similar topic, but from a different perspective. Specifically, how investing in business enterprises where women are included in the ranks of executive leadership and or C-suite roles, and how it can actually add to the bottom line for those companies and ultimately for investors. With that, I'd like to introduce you to Martha of Pax World Investments, who's the Vice President of the Western Division. Pax World, founded in 1971, is the oldest publicly available mutual fund in the United States, focusing on socially responsible, ESG, and impact investing. And with that, I'll turn it over to Martha.
Thank you very much, Renee, and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for taking the time to join us today. And as stated, I am the Vice President with Pax World, and Pax World is an investment company that specializes in sustainable investing, in that we use ESG as part of our stock selection process. And ESG stands for environment, social, and corporate governance. If you take a look at slide 1, you're going to see that some of the fads or the trends out there that maybe were a little ahead of their time have become much more mainstream. And that's the case with sustainable or ESG investing as well. Back when we started the first fund in 1971, it was new, it was different, and there really wasn't in the beginning a lot of demand or understanding of exactly what socially responsible investing was. Just similar to maybe, say, organic foods. When you think about it, organic foods, even just 10, 20 years ago, were kind of a specialty. You really had to go to a special organic food store to find it. Not that many people, it was maybe just the very serious health nuts, so to speak, that were into organic food. But today, it's commonplace. Every store out there has its own brand or label of organic foods, and pretty much we all eat to some extent organic organic foods. Well, the same thing can be said now for both looking at investing in women and sustainable investing. It's becoming much more mainstream, and there's a lot more interest in it. As far as investing in women, if you take a look at slide 2, actually, if you can go back to slide 2, it seems like you can't hardly open a magazine or go online or turn on the news or read a newspaper without seeing something about this women thing, whether it's Lean In with Sheryl Sandberg, whether it's within the entertainment industry, looking at pay equity, Silicon Valley, pay equity and more women needed in STEM. Everywhere you look, there is a conversation going on, a national conversation about women. And I'm often asked, is this a fad that's going to go away, or is this something that's here to stay? We really believe that it's here to stay, at least until we see some of the necessary changes happen. We believe this is a conversation that is definitely here to stay, and it is a good thing. If you look at the bottom, you'll see a quote there from Warren Buffett, who's an exceptional investor, and he says, "The closer that America comes to fully employing the talents of all its citizens, the greater its output of goods and services will be." And we believe that at Pax World as well. And it looks like the financial industry is all in as well, at least if you take a look at some of these quotes from some of the financial, very mainstream publications, whether it's Bloomberg last year, Stock Tip, try betting on companies that are led by women. My favorite is actually the one from Fortune magazine from the beginning of this year, how more women on Wall Street could have prevented the financial crisis. That actually goes back to a joke that was floating around back in 2009 and 10, following the financial crisis and the implosion of Lehman Brothers. The joke was that if Lehman Brothers had been Lehman Brothers and Sisters as opposed to just Lehman Brothers, we may not have had such a severe downturn. Well, it looks like Fortune has agreed with that. On page 4, you're going to see a very nice photo of Sally Krawcheck. And you can see at the bottom her title is Pax Elevate Chair. For those of you that aren't in our industry, Sally may not be a well-recognized name. However, within our industry, she's pretty well known because for a time, she was really one of the top women in our investment and financial industry, and that she was actually COI of Bank of America and Citibank for a number of years. Prior to that, though, she was a Wall Street analyst. So her job was to research and analyze companies and make recommendations on whether they would be a good bet for their stocks to go up. Over the years, she was constantly evaluating management teams. Senior management teams can have a huge impact on the success or failure of a company. And what she found she came to the conclusion was the best management teams had diversity, gender diversity in particular, because they tended to avoid groupthink. And by avoiding groupthink, you had better perspectives, better decisions, and better conversations. So if you look at page 5, you're going to see that good things happen when women lead companies. Pax came to that same conclusion over the years as well. As I mentioned in the beginning, we use ESG, which is environment, social, and corporate governance, along with very rigorous financial analysis when it comes to evaluating companies and making the decisions whether to invest in them. So we also came to the conclusion early on that companies that had women included on the board of directors and in senior management positions, they did better over time. They performed better really across the board. So we collaborated with Sally Krawcheck to create the very first Women's Leadership Index Fund. And the reason for that is really a premise that has been established over the years by numerous studies. If you take a look at slide 6, you're going to see a study that was conducted by Credit Suisse. But this is just one of many. I believe Renee had sent one out a few days ago regarding the McKinsey study. Harvard has also done studies, Reuters. There are just numerous studies over the years. And although the numbers may differ a little bit, they all come up with the same conclusion. And that's that across the board when evaluating companies, that when you have women on the boards and in management positions, they perform much better. What you're looking at here is a study that was conducted by Credit Suisse, and they looked at over 2,300 companies over a 5-year period. They compared the companies that had at least one woman on the board versus no women on the board. And what they looked at is return on equity, which is a data point that is used to help determine the income and thus the success of a company in terms of profitability over time. The top line is the return on equity, which you can see is considerably higher when you have women on the boards, from the bottom, darker line, which is companies that had no women on the boards. In addition, there was a more recent study that Credit Suisse did. It was just recently released, in fact. They looked at 3,000 companies, and they looked across 40 countries in all major sectors. They took a look at more than 28,000 senior managers, whether it be CEOs or CFOs, and the findings suggested that diversity does also correspond with senior management as well. So you have better run companies when you include women on the boards and in management positions. It's basically a predictor of success. And if you turn to page 7, you're going to see women are on everyone's agenda now. And what that means is that a lot of the firms out there are starting to wake up to this. They're starting to realize the importance of having women on the boards and in management, but they're also realizing the impact that women have when it comes to investing. And why are firms paying attention to this? It's basically, money talks. 11 trillion, or 39% of the investable assets in the U.S. are controlled by women, and women are becoming the decision makers. Sadly, though, in our industry, in the investment industry, that's not really the case in terms of the percentage of women in our business. In fact, I'm sitting in Renee's office, and I see here that she is a CFP, which, if you're not familiar with that designation, it's one of the highest and most respected designations for a financial advisor. Sadly, though, only 23% of CFPs are women. In addition, 70% of women that have been surveyed have said they're dissatisfied with the services of financial professionals. They just feel that a lot of the advisors out there just don't get them. So even though many firms say that they are in terms of women issues, they're still not really fully understanding the needs of women. One of the needs of women, or that the surveys have really revealed, is that women as a group want to align their investments with their values. Yes, we do want as women to have a fair and good investment return, but we also would like the products we invest in to align with our values. And many of the surveys out there point to that. 77% of women say that they do want their investments in companies to have diversity and leadership. They do want to see women within the companies represented in management and on the boards. Another group is millennials. Millennials also reflect this in their desires to align their money with their values. What can we do? What can we do as women? Because although there's been improvement on board diversity, and it has increased in just about every country and every sector, back in 2010, in fact, women made up about 9.6% of the boards out there. At the end of 2013, women represented about 12.7% of the boards. Female participation in top management, whether it be, again, CEOs or top senior management, has stood at about 12.9%. And unfortunately, that hasn't really moved much. It's kind of stalled out there. And again, as I said, women are underrepresented in our industry in terms of financial professionals. So what are some of the obstacles out there? Well, we believe that you're going to need to maybe push some of these companies with policies. And more importantly, as shareholders, we can use our investments as leverage. And that's exactly what we do at Pax World. We're an engaged shareholder, and we believe in shareholder advocacy. One of the things we do is proxy voting. When you're a shareholder, you get to vote, and we vote our proxies no for all male boards. That's something that we're very active in saying no to all male boards, and we've been doing this now for over 5 years. We engage companies on gender diversity issues. In fact, we are filer or co-filer with Pay Equity, with Apple, Facebook, and Amazon. So we're very active in this, and this is something that you as investors can do as well. If this is something important to you and it's part of your values, you can seek out investments that take advantage of the talents of women, and you can also vote your proxies and get involved in pushing companies to make the necessary changes, because it's very clear now, there's a business case that's very compelling that companies that invest in women are better run, and as investors, it makes sense for us to not only invest in companies that do invest in women because it's the right thing to do, but it's also the smart thing to do when it comes to investing. And again, at Pax, this is something that we've identified, we're passionate about, and we've been doing for a number of years. So I'm very excited that we are actually becoming trendy, so to speak, because in my opinion, it's really about time, and it benefits all of us out there. And I think I'm right at 1:20, so I'm going to turn it back to Renee.
All right. Thanks, Martha. That was great. I think that there is a tremendous amount of, as she said, information and material out there now that really, really supports this whole idea of diversity. And that's across not only gender, but, of course, diversity in general is the right thing to do. The world is made up of hodgepodge of people, and so the businesses that we support should also be representative of that as well. I hope some of you have some questions. I know I have some questions for Martha. Before I get to that, though, I do want to make you aware of the fact that on the bottom of the web page here, I'm going to take you back to that in a minute, there are a couple of publications that I think you might be very interested in. And you can download these either as currently as you're watching this, or you will get the replay link and you will have the availability to access this as well. This particular piece, Why Gender Diversity Should Matter to Investors, references a lot of the things that Martha talked about, but it goes into a little bit of a deeper dive about that subject. The other piece is actually with Pax World, and it is from their website. They have a lot of fabulous information there, but this is their 2016 second quarter investment outlook. Pax World is very simple, paxworld.com, and that's how you can get to their website. And in the insights area, also their funds and the news, and they get a very good idea about where they put their money where their mouth is and where their heart is as well, in representing their interest, but also the interest of their shareholders, which is awesome. So I do want to ask Sally questions, and hopefully if any of you have any questions, please use your chat box to send us some questions. So Martha, you talk about the fact that, and I'm very happy to see Sally Krawcheck, at the top of her game here. The former head of my old firm, Smith Barney, and of course of Merrill Lynch, is now collaborating with Pax World. Can you talk a little bit more about what that collaboration is?
Yes, actually, I'm very happy to. As I mentioned, Sally, in her work as an analyst over the years, came to the conclusion that when companies do have women in specifically senior management positions as well as on the board of directors, the management teams do better, which is a great indication of long-term potential success for the stock price. We at Pax also came to that conclusion early on. So when my CEO met Sally, it was like kindred spirits meeting, and they talked and collaborated on how we could bring this to the marketplace, how we could create an investment that really zeroed in and took advantage of the talents of women by finding and seeking out the companies that had the higher percentage of women both on the boards and in management positions. So we actually built out an index that evaluated the companies out there on a global basis, and what went into the index were the companies that did have that higher percentage of women, both on the boards and in management. So we created the Pax Elevate Women's Leadership Index Fund that now has about a 2-year track record, and I'm really pleased to say that it's beating its index, and it's doing it with a little bit less risk as well. So we think that the premise is definitely real, and that we expect to see great things in this fund, and it's a way for investors that believe in this and are interested in it to invest in those companies that are investing in women.
Okay, great. So it's a global fund, which is great. Can we see what companies are in there if we go to the website?
Yes, there's actually about 400 companies in it, so it's a fairly extensive list. But we will show you the top holdings, and most of the names are going to be very, very familiar to you. They do end up being what is considered blue chip, high quality companies, often companies that, again, you're very familiar with. And I guess it makes sense, because if they're high quality companies, one of the reasons they're high quality is because they do have a high number of women. I'll just throw out a couple of names for you, and again, names that you're going to be familiar with. Procter & Gamble, Johnson & Johnson, Facebook, Yahoo. Those are a couple of the names, as you can see, that are on the top 10 holdings. But again, the fund does have 416 holdings in it, so it is a little too many to list on the sheet. But if you are interested in seeing them all, I mean, that is something that through you, Renee, we'd be happy to get to anyone who's interested.
All right, excellent. Okay. And, I know that based on the top, at the top of the presentation, you talked about some of the things that were, at the time when they were presented, were considered trendy, such as, who would have thought, we have mobile devices that are our mini computers now, or certainly organic food and how it's become much more mainstream. How long do you think it's going to take for the industry to embrace the idea that investing in women and having more representation in our industry? How long do you think it's going to take, or does Pax World think it's going to take?
Well, I think it's actually here now. I don't know if it's fully embraced, but it's definitely arrived. Most of the major financial firms out there see the coming wave. Again, as I mentioned, women are coming into their own as far as a financial power. We're the largest emerging market out there.
Wow.
And we're coming in our own in terms of just by the number of women graduating from college or getting professional degrees, starting business, but also with the wealth transfer that's coming. So I think it's here. It's just a matter of more and more people embracing it. And we've seen a huge growth in the sustainable investing area. It's grown by about 77% in just the last 4 years.
Wow. That's huge. That's huge. Okay, well, that's great. And I'm sure a lot of it is being driven by women as well as millennials. There's conversations about that in terms of aligning our values with our, our lifestyle, what we want to invest in, how we eat, where we live, what organizations that we support. So I think it's time for us to make a change in how the world is run. So with that, unless there's some other questions, I'm going to sign off. For any of you who are on the call, please make sure that you come to our website. We have some great topics coming up throughout the rest of the year. We have generally about 3 on our site at a time, but we'd love to have you come back and see what we're up to. So with that, I will say goodbye, and we look forward to having you on our call next month.